first, we want to get to the Brazoria County Sheriff's Office. They've taken action against the deputy involved in the deadly shooting of a college student. Fox 26's Leslie DelasBour is joining us live with this breaking update. Leslie.
Yeah, Rashi, this is a huge development in this case so far. So the Brazoria County Sheriff, Bo Stallman, released in a video statement that Deputy Kevin Tippett has been terminated in what the sheriff said was a violation, a policy violation, and how he handled his gun. Now, that video was about 4 minutes long, so I want to get to some of the big points in what the sheriff did say. So in the video, Sheriff Bo Stallman began by acknowledging John Mendoza Jr.'s family, saying his thoughts and prayers remain with them as they grieve the loss of their loved one. The sheriff also addressed Brazoria County residents who he acknowledged want answers. Now, Stallman said the Texas Rangers will continue their independent investigation into the shooting and that a grand jury will ultimately review the facts and determine whether any charges will be fired against the now former deputy. But while that process continues, the sheriff says he has his own responsibility and he's heard the cries from the community. Now, the sheriff was careful to note that the firing should not be interpreted as a conclusion of criminal liability, saying his decision is separate from what's going on with the investigation.
The Texas Rangers are conducting an independent investigation into those events surrounding John Mendoza Jr.'s death. The district attorney's office and the grand jury will ultimately determine what legal actions are appropriate based on the facts and the evidence developed through the investigation. I have heard concerns regarding transparency, and I want you to know that I remain committed to providing information whenever it can be made available, as I am doing today, without compromising the investigation. There are legal and investigative limitations on what can be released today, and as those limitations change, additional information will be shared with the community.
And again, just to reiterate, you just heard the sheriff say that the people of Brazoria County deserve a fair and thorough investigation, but he does not want to compromise the independent investigation that the Texas Rangers are conducting. Rashi, back to you.
Well, Leslie, did the sheriff say anything about the dispatch audio from the scanners that was released?
Yeah, so he actually did not address that. And again, as you mentioned, that was a dispatch audio that was released. And in that audio, we did hear the officer say the words accidental discharge, which was a big development early on in this investigation. But at this time, the sheriff has not discussed that.
All right, Leslie, thank you for that live report.